Hi, everybody. Hello. Welcome to another episode of What's on Your Mind. I'm your host, Nimade, and I am excited to be coming back for another week. And I have a great guest with me today, Jalen Powell. Hello.
Hi, hi. Happy to be here.
Thank you for joining us. And she is the CEO and founder of Out Loud. So we're going to talk a little bit about her organization. And today is also International Women's Day. Whoop, whoop. All month long, it's all about the women. It's Women's History Month. But today, especially, is International Women's Day. So we're going to talk about being a woman and what that's all about. But before we get started, Jalen, can you tell us a little bit more about yourself?
Sure. First, thank you so much for having me, and happy International Women's Day to you
Thank
and
you.
creating the space. But my name is Jalen Powell, CEO and founder of Out Loud. I'm a proud Delawarean. We are a youth-centered nonprofit, so everything we do centers youth voice. We focus on mental health and wellness and social justice. Healing is our form of resistance. We also have a for-profit or consultant arm that helps nonprofit and community serving organizations with grant management, development, writing, all of the things, back house development. And yeah, just happy to be here.
Awesome. Awesome. How did you start your organization? What led you to start it?
We got time.
Yeah.
So, and I might get real funny about answering questions like that because typically you'll have answers like, I had a business plan or I had a goal, I had a dream. That was not me at all. I had lost my twin brother in 2016 in a car accident involving alcohol impaired driving.
I'm
Um,
sorry for your loss.
Thank you. And I went through a little, not a little, I went through grief and depression, and I wanted to kind of stay busy. So I promised, like, people don't believe me when I tell the story, but I promise you, I saw an ad for literally a mentor like position to help tutor kids. And I'm like, okay, I can get some extra money. When I went to the interview, they were asking me questions like, have you ever experienced a mental health challenge? Like, what is something tough you had to overcome? And I just shared the most recent thing, which was the loss of my brother, but I didn't think anything of it. Come to find out, that position was actually a youth advocate for mental health. Um, they offered me the job, and I started to learn about signs and symptoms of mental health challenges. I started to learn about positive coping. Mental health was not a topic of conversation when I grew up. So I started to learn more, and I started to see some of these things in my life. Fast forward to maybe 6 months to a year later. Thank you. 6 months to a year later, the lead of that space had left, and they asked me to take her position. But in order to take her position, you needed to have a business. So literally, I'm like, okay, well, I had an LLC that I never did anything with called Out Loud. It was supposed to be for speaking engagements. Let's just, move it to this. So we went through all the paperwork, did that, and that's how I got started. Was just, I believe, I call it divine alignment, just kind of how the stars align. And then what I also noticed was that the signs and symptoms that we were teaching other youth about, not all of them were external to what I was experiencing. Like typically will say, withdrawal, you won't be able to show up, you won't be able to work and take care of home. I was taking care of home. I was working 3 jobs. I was finishing up my master's, actually advanced the advanced track of my master's degree, all while grieving. So then that started to pushed me to do more research around high functioning anxiety and high functioning depression. Now you'll see more diagnoses of ADHD, specifically in women. So our nonprofit actually looks at holistic wellness now. We don't just look for, or serve students that are externally having challenges. We want to serve the athletes. We want to serve those in honors classes because typically those are the ones that also get overlooked because they're still performing. We want to serve the moms, like we want to serve the women wearing many hats, the fathers as well. But that is the foundation of what we do. When we look at mental health and wellness, we do it holistically, we do it unconventionally, and we educate and bring awareness and bring community in the process. But
I love that. I like that it didn't start with the conventional route because
it did not.
businesses start all different ways,
Yeah.
and divine intervention is a real thing. I am a strong believer that everything happens for a reason. So
Absolutely.
things like that, it sounds like it was meant to be. And your service is great because it is an area I feel like we don't talk a lot about, is the high functioning groups of people, right? Like the people who still are putting out like the good grades and accomplishing things, and people aren't realizing that they're still struggling. And sometimes their high functioning is a symptom of their
Thank
thing.
you.
It's actually not like the thing.
Yes. Look, this is a selfless plug. Follow my Instagram, Dr. Powell Loading. My dissertation is around how trauma shows up in high functioning Black women specifically. And the tagline is "Trauma made me do it." So a lot of, so selfless plug. But yes, you're absolutely right. A lot of times our achievement is actually external symptoms of those challenges. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I heard a quote once, and it was something like, "Don't compare your real life to my mental illness." And it was something along the lines of like, some of us are like high performing because we can't relax, because we can't chill, and because like we put so much of our self-value and worth into what we're able to produce. Like, I'm actually proud of myself when I chill, even though sometimes I feel like it goes too far. But like there have been so many points of my life where I just felt like I had to constantly be on it to the point of burnt out. Like even in high school, one of my teachers wrote in my yearbook, "Stop burning the candle at both ends." Like that's how bad I used to be. Yeah, I was one of those. So like I've learned to chill a little bit, but a lot of people think and see that and go, "Ooh, that's awesome," but actually it's not awesome.
Yep, and that's hard to. I love being in spaces where people get it, because not everybody gets it. Like even as having to articulate that to my mom was hard. It's like, Jalen, nothing's ever been hard for you. You just do stuff with ease, like, or nothing's ever good enough. You're always chasing the next thing. And I'm like, it's not because I want to. Like,
Right.
And it's just like, being able to say like, and also feeling alone in that, because while everyone is celebrating you on the outside for doing something good or running to something, I'm like, no, this is me struggling, actually running away from something. I don't know how to have true vacations. I think I might have been 27, 26, the first time I actually did a vacation where I didn't do, I'm not going to say any work. I probably sent an email, but like little to no work. Like I didn't know how to sit still. I was scared of idle time. Like I constantly had to. I remember it was right during the pandemic. They did a drive-by celebration because we had to be 6 feet apart. When I graduated with my master's, they're in their cars honking and celebrating. I'm on the computer ready for my next degree, planning my next start date. Like that's how, like, just on the go, my brain operates. So I actually have to be intentional about rest, where other people, it is a luxury for them. They can go in and out. Me, I have to literally force myself to take a break. Yeah.
I have to plan out my breaks, because if it's not, I don't rest the way that I should. I feel like bad, like I should be doing something. And I actually didn't even realize how bad I was at it until I went to stay with a friend for a little while. I was like it was like a work vacation. I went to stay with her for a period of time. We were supposed to be working on something. And at one point she's like, "Did you know you apologize every time every time you're resting?" I was like, "What?" She's like, "You say you're sorry every time you're not working." It's like, oh, like, and I realized like now I'll clock it. And it's funny because after that, when I went home, I realized my mom does the same thing, and I get it from her. Once it was pointed out, and now I see it in hers, but I didn't realize that I was doing the same exact thing.
Yeah, and I think, and that's like just so fitting that it's not only Women's History Month, but International Women's Day. I think collectively as women, you talked about that guilt, whether you're a mom, entrepreneur, a C-suite team member, whatever you may be in your role, auntie, godmom. I don't know why women associate rest as something negative or something that they don't have the same luxury as their counterparts to do. There is such a guilt that comes with that. And I pray, we have a women's empowerment initiative called the Boss Collective. And the first thing women responded and said when we had our very first boss brunch was, "Do I need to be a business owner?" And I was like, no, why do we associate boss with a position? I created this space to send a message to women. I truly believe that when you are born a woman, there is a power that comes with you when you enter this world that can't nobody take away from you. And I really wanted to redefine what it means to walk in that power, to walk in that just like Beyonce and Sasha Fierce. When Sasha Fierce come, like that boss look, it is who you are, as a person. And it's not your resume, it's not an achievement that you can accomplish, it's not none of that. It's just you being authentically you. Like there's such a power in that. And that's another thing we try to articulate to women.
I love that you use Beyonce as the example, Beyonce and Sasha Fierce, because like Beyonce has Sasha, I have Beyonce. So I have this thing where I'm like, everyone should be like the Beyonce of their own lives. And the part of the reason why I use her, so I sometimes will do my own little like, what would Beyonce do? But only because I remember watching her in like either one of her documentaries or something, and she was being very like, this is the way that I want it and blah, blah, blah. And I think that frequently as women, we don't want to seem like we're too bossy. We don't want to seem like we're too, like nitpicky, all of these things. But I had like a click moment where I was like, well, Beyonce is Beyonce because she is like that. If she just let things go and was like, well, that's good enough, that's blah, 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 she would never be Beyonce, be seen as Beyonce. And so like for me, because I can be very nitpicky about things and I can be very blah, blah, blah. And I see things a certain way. And sometimes I'll be like, I want to execute it that way. And sometimes I'll be like, well, I don't want to be a pain. So like, it's whatever. But I really was like, no, you seeing it like that in this way that other people can't see it is why people value your eye. It's why people want to work with you. So like be Beyonce. So like since then, like whenever I have a moment where I'm like, oh, I don't know if I want to, I'm like, nope, what would Beyonce do? She would say it. So it's good to have that.
It is. And I remember for me, I love how you like use the Beyonce analogy. For me, it was, I didn't want to be seen as like contentious, aggressive, hard to work with. I didn't want to be seen in that light. I am a very like soft person at my core, and I want people to like me and I want people to love me, not from a place of insecurity or validation, but I really just am a lovable person. That's how I am. And I had to grow into a space of maturity and healing where I said, I'm okay with not being liked by everyone. Actually, if I'm going to do all that God has called me to do in this earth, I'm not going to be liked by everyone. And to your point, channeling that inner Beyonce, there's absolutely, I should have looked this up before I got on here. There was a scripture, and not to be like, but there was a scripture that said, cursed are those that spare the sword, or basically like show up less than what God has called you to do. So if God called you to do something and you don't show up in that fullness, like it was not saying like everyone, but it was specifically for that situation in the Bible. But I took that into how I operate in life and on my job and every space that I walk in. If I don't show up in my fullness, I'm actually not doing myself. I'm doing the people that I'm called to serve at this service because they are, they're assigned to me because of the power and because of the things that I embody and because of the boundaries that I have and because of my no's and because of my no, do that over again. This has to be like, So I think to your point, I don't know. And I see it more so in women than men, but I would love to know, like, what is it that we can do to kind of be okay in that space with making corrections and saying, hey, this offended me, or when you did that, or I didn't like that, or we could do this over, and be okay with it,
Yeah. I mean, I think that's the frustrating part about being a woman is like all of those things that would make people talking about a man like he's a leader, he's assertive, he notices this, he says this, he's direct, he's all of those things. The minute a woman does it, it's a problem. It's a she's so bitchy, it's a she's so this and she's so that. And instead of it being seen, and I saw it when I worked in corporate for a while, it was like the women that were at the level of the men had like the worst reputations for being like just this and that. And when you got to meet them, they absolutely were not those things. But it's because they needed a level of assertiveness to get to those spots, which men do also, but suddenly it's a problem if it's not a woman, or and it's why women get upset with the whole like telling us to smile. Like, why do we have to, like, why do we always have to go out of our way to make everybody else around us feel comfortable before we can have that respectability thing? And like women have to be liked to get respect and men can just get respect. And that is very frustrating.
Yep, it is. And like, I would remember early on in my career, I was just, young, just trying to get my foot in the door. I was volunteering everywhere. I was, learning as much as I could. And I was very observant in those spaces, but I also was timid. And timid in a way of, I also too noticed those things. I was in spaces that were predominantly, to be frank, white male. And there was a sense of, we can be vulnerable. We can be like transparent on here. Okay, I just want to make sure. There was a sense of like, okay, I don't want to be too loud. I don't want to be the angry Black woman. I don't want to correct because then I'm nasty and got a bad attitude. And I had a hard time showing up as me because I was constantly calculating my tone. I was calculating my facial expressions. I was calculating, did I smile? Did I smile too hard? Did I not smile enough? We have this RBF, this resting face. I know I do. Until you say, hey, then I'm like, hey, girl. But I really just be in like deep thought. It don't be nothing personal. But just going in those spaces, it took a while for me to show up fully as me because I was worried about the stigma. I was worried about the strong Black woman phenomenon. Like I was worried about all of these things instead of just being Jalen. And honestly, I think we as women go into spaces and we will mold and shapeshift ourselves to fit that space versus making people do whatever they got to do to be comfortable in our space without us changing ourselves. I think we will change ourselves without hesitation to fit in other spaces, but we don't expect that same level of effort when it's our space. So yeah.
Well, and I think that people don't give us that grace, which is what's frustrating, and that we do have to spend so much of our time managing how other people see us that we almost don't get the chance to pause and figure out like how we see it and how we want to be seen in certain spaces. And it often frequently messes with how we identify with ourselves also and also put ourselves out there. Like I'm so grateful for social media and like the space that I've created for myself because like I remember before there being like, especially when I was in corporate, because I was in corporate for 16 years and really like managing like what it took to try to get respect in that area as, like a woman and then as a Black woman. And then, like you said, like you want to be serious, but then you don't want to be like the angry Black woman if you're too passionate about stuff. And even growing up, like I naturally love fun. Like I love fun and silly. I do. Like I am serious by force, not because I really want to be, but definitely growing up, I remember like the times where I would like joke around and be silly or stuff. And people would like say things like, she's so fickle or she's so whatever. And it really bugged me to the point where like I went so far the other way to like not show my fun side to get the respectability. And like now I realize like that was a them problem. Like I would literally like I was doing AP homework and I was leading clubs. Like there was nothing fickle and silly about me except for like when I wanted to crack jokes, but I felt like I wasn't even allowed to be the fun side of me because, and I think especially in spaces where honestly, like our predominantly white spaces, I think that we are so, especially as Black women specifically, aware of how like on the line we are to tipping over to a stereotype they have of us, right? Like we so carefully have to toe the line because if we're a little too funny, then we're like dumb. And if we're a little too nice, then we're those flirty. Or if we're a little bit, like too serious, then we're angry Black women. Like we have to so carefully toe the line so that we don't become whatever stereotype they're like waiting to put us into. It's actually exhausting.
It is. And that is a fight all within like itself, honestly. And my field is politics. I mean, yes, I'm in the nonprofit sector by trade. Academically, my bachelor's in poli-sci. So having to navigate those political spaces, and of course, in that arena, it's very much you have to be conscious because you don't want to be seeming, too radical. You don't want. I remember, I'll never forget, and I can say this. I mean, it is what it is. I'll never forget 2022, I ran for school board. And my experience running in the town that I ran in, this was a space that I love down. And I'll never forget that I called my mom. There were several like slurs. There were several accusations that I would only care for Black children. I was a radical. I was this. I was that. I was a Marxist. So many things about me. And I was just wanting to serve the community, wanting to serve the youth. I didn't say anything about my, my career, my experience in advocacy. I didn't, that's not what my platform was about. And I remember sitting in my car crying for the first time in my life at the weight of being a Black woman in America. Because no matter how hard we try to get away from those stereotypes, it seems like we still have that thing wavering over our heads. I grew up where my Blackness, who I was as a person, was not, it was not fully celebrated. And I don't say that from a place of like racism or anything. Like, I'm half Native American, half Black. So some of my family members had a hard time accepting that they had biracial, grandkids, siblings, nieces, nephews. And I remember we were taught when we were going to an interview to take out our braids, don't wear our curly hair, wear it straight. But also it's coming from people who are going through systems where that's what they see. They see white adjacent people getting hired. They see people with braids and dreads getting fired or not getting given a chance at all. So they were trying to save us from this society. Me being the rebel that I am, I would go get braids just for the interview. But I just said that to say, like, as a kid, I'm constantly having to defend myself. Like, no, I'm enough. Like, I'm just, it doesn't matter what ethnicity I am or what cultural background I have. Just me being Jaylane is fine enough. But I just think we just have we have so much to carry as women, but even more so as Black women in this space. And you're right, it's tough. So
it is, and I love that you mentioned the hair too, because I feel like it's such a subject that people act like, oh, why do they care so much about the hair? Why is it a topic? Especially when we're looking at situations of like cultural appropriation, like, and they'll be like, well, who cares if people like wear braids or if they do blah, blah, blah. And I feel like they don't understand that it's very frustrating when people don't mind putting on your culture for a costume and don't mind putting on your culture for leisurely or fun things like, oh, I'm on vacation, I have braids, or oh, I'm doing that. But when it's your culture and then it's presented in a space that also requires respect, suddenly because it's your culture, there's no more respect, right? So like, while it's so easy to be like, oh, braids on vacation, like who cares if white girls wear braids, or blah, blah, blah. It wouldn't be a problem except that they would never wear it to, like you said, an interview, a special occasion, versus we would, because it's not a costume for us. It's just the way we wear our hairs. And so it's very frustrating and annoying when we see them put it on for fun but be able to take it off, while they're all the same things that we get talked down for. You know what I mean? Like, how many Black women have to deal with comments about like their lips and their hairs and blah, blah, blah. But when other cultures add it and take those same features, it's suddenly celebrated.
Yeah. I don't think, and I don't think people, it's like one of those, like, unless you walk in our shoes, you wouldn't understand. We can preach this till the sun goes down or sun comes up in the transition of the day. But I just think until, and this is not to sound pessimistic, but I truly believe that this is just something that I don't try to fight it anymore. It's like one of those, like, I don't know if it will ever go away. The best thing that I can do for me and the youth that come under me or behind me and with me is say that we don't have to fight the system in that space. We don't have to fight against stereotype and stigma. What you can do is you can set the bar. I'm big on, if I'm not invited to your table, I will create my own, and you're more than welcome to come to mine. So when I say this, I'm not trying to fight to get through the door anymore. I started building my own space, and I'm okay with that. And I think inside, that's why I have a hard time when they when we talk about things being reformed. No, dismantle them, rebuild them, because some of these spaces were not built for us to begin with. They're doing exactly what they were intended to do. So, and that's a whole nother soapbox that I could get on. But yeah,
Same.
so
Yeah. I did want to go back to something that you mentioned, about making, realizing that everybody doesn't have to like you, because that is definitely that one that I had to work on, and now I'm big on it. And not to bring it back to Beyonce, but I did tell myself that, like, hey, if everyone can't agree that Beyonce is great, everyone's not going to agree that you're great. And it's just like a little thing that I remind myself of, that like everyone doesn't always agree on everything, and there's nothing actually in this world that everyone agrees on. So you don't have to like take in other people's negative opinions about you and make that a reflection of you. Like maybe you're just not that person's cup of tea, and that's totally okay. And what's really important is that like you like yourself, and that you are okay with that. And then you find people who like you for you, and those are your people. But like it's definitely a journey I had to get to that mindset. Like what was yours? Like how did you get there?
Okay, so two things. I'll give a natural and a spiritual. So I'll start with the spiritual. The first is Jesus is Jesus. And he was lied on, talked about, spit on. And my grandma will always tell me when I would come to her upset, she'd be like, they did that to Jesus. You were you ain't thinking of him. And I'm like, you know what, you're right. So that's one thing. And also the Bible says those that suffer with me will also reign with me. So I know life is going to have its challenges. So that's the spiritual. On the natural, I look at Burger King, McDonald's, Wendy's, Chick-fil-A, all serving some similar food, sandwiches, burgers, fries, whatever it may be. And they all are doing well with their own audience. There are people that go to Burger King that don't really care for McDonald's, and vice versa. There are people that go to Wendy's and don't really care for Chick-fil-A, and vice versa. And what I had to realize there are always going to be an audience specifically for you. Just because people don't care for what you have to offer, that doesn't make your product, service, or being any less valuable. I mean, the whole world operates with options. And one thing we're all given is the power of choice. What I had to understand is if Jesus was okay with 12 and 2 of them was, on the fence, then I can be okay. I can be okay with whomever he sends to me. And I had to really, really get and it's still a journey. Like, I don't want you to think I made it there. There are still times where comparison is a thief of my joy. There's still times where I question if I'm doing the right thing because there's not a big following or not a big turnout. But something that someone said to me that I really take through in literally everything I do is who is supposed to be in the room is supposed to be in the room. And I add on to that and I say, I could speak to a room of 500 and only reach one, or I could speak to a room of 50 and reach all 50. So I truly believe, to your point, back to your question, how did I kind of navigate not being liked, is that and you said this, you are big on everything happens for a reason. I truly believe in divine alignment. I believe in divine connection. I believe in divine orders of steps. I see the comment, the people that are supposed to be there will be there. Absolutely. Yep. I believe wherever I'm called to serve in, whatever I'm called to do, that's what I'm supposed to be doing in this earth. That's how I'm supposed to be giving back. So if you don't like it, as long as me and God locked in, your opinion really, it don't matter.
Yep. I am very much the same way. And I think that's especially importantly needed as women. It's Women's History Month. It's International Women's Day. And we really do have to make that point of just like pumping each other up and supporting each other. I've always been a girl's girl, so it's not super hard for me. Not that women aren't ever wrong, because sometimes some girl, Lord. But for the most part, I feel like if we really just support each other and cheer each other on, I think the thing that honestly tears women down the most is this like competition people try to have amongst each other. Like there's like competition for men, for job, for blah, blah, blah. And it's like, first of all, there's more than enough for all of us. There really is. There's not really anything in this world where like only one person can have that slot. Only one person, even in like small towns or like, like Wilmington is not that huge, but there's so much for so many of us to do, even if a bunch of people do the same thing. So I feel like rather than treating other women like they're your enemy, like link up, like we get so much further if we help each other, if we talk to each other, we look out for each other. Like I love women of all age ranges as well.
Yeah.
I'm always encouraging people, like, make sure you have friends your age, but also younger, so you're mentoring to other,
Yeah.
and also older, so you're being mentored too. And so I love that that's a big part of what you do as well, is that mentorship.
Yeah, there's an African proverb that says, alone you can go fast, but together you can go far. And I
Mm.
literally was just talking about this, and I had a session before this one. We were talking about why is it important for women to boost each other up and encourage each other. And I feel like biologically, we as humans, we thrive off gratification. We thrive off those celebratory moments. That's how we're made. Our body is made to receive gratitude. And I say for women specifically, it is important because a lot of us don't take that time to pause and reflect and say it to ourselves. So sometimes hearing it from someone else is that reminder, hey, actually, like, I am doing pretty good for myself. Or this outfit, I did put a little more thought into it. It does look good.
Yeah.
Or my hair looks, good.
Yeah.
I did just this week, Friday, I had a peer in my class, and every time she would see me, she would just compliment like my dress or my outfit.
Excuse me.
God bless you. And I would say to her, Friday, I said to her, you don't know how much it takes 2 seconds to be kind, like literally 2 seconds. And it's free. And it's not the talk right now. Kindness is free. But I told her, I was like, it means so much to me when you take time out of your day and go out of your way just to say something nice. And she said to me, she said, girl, she said, that's what I have to do. She said, if not us, like, we have to pour into one another. Like, and this is woman of all faces in all spaces. Like, literally, I'll be walking in the store and like Holy Spirit would like leave me, just compliment her on her hair, compliment her on her outfit. Not because, she necessarily needs to hear that my outfit looks good, but maybe she just needs that, hey, you see me. Like, you know what I mean? Like, and I just think for women, we get so wrapped up in roles, responsibilities, performance, that kindness is something that we give without hesitation, but it's not something we receive without hesitation. Like, it took me a long time to even receive like compliments well, because I would feel guilty. Like, am I supposed to be receiving that? Like, does that make me conceited? Like, so all of those, and that could be a trauma response, but all of those things. So yeah, I would like say we all have to be girls. Like, we have to stick together. I mean, to be quite frank, if it wasn't for, it's a man's world, but it wouldn't be nothing without a woman or a girl,
That part. No, and that's so true. You never know what that hello, holding the door, complimenting a person can go a long way and really make someone's day. It's so true. And not that I go out of my way, but I make a point now of like saying happy things. Like, I don't know, I used to like kind of hold it back because I didn't want people to think like I was fake or like I was, like, going out of my way to be super complimentary. But like, that really is just how I think. Like, I'm constantly like, you go, girl, oh, blah, blah, blah. And so like now I just like, I don't hold it back. Even just like if I'm scrolling through on social media, like I'll drop comments or compliments because it really can make someone's day. And it's really actually how I think and feel. And I know there have been times where someone has said it to me and it's made my day. And then even just like circling back to what we were saying about like those of us who are high anxiety, high functioning, I so frequently think I'm not doing that great. And I've gotten better now, thank you to my therapist. But like a lot of times people who put a lot of like weight and pressure on themselves, we naturally raise the bar for ourselves as to what like regular is, right? So like our level of like greatness is so much higher that like when we're performing at like I don't know if I'm making sense. Like when we're at our regular level, to us, we're doing like the bare minimum. And to other people, we are soaring. We are doing great things, but we are so used to pushing ourselves that to us, that's bare minimum. And it sometimes takes someone else being like, wow, that's amazing. You did this and you did that. And I'm like, oh yeah, I guess it is kind of amazing because I'm like you. I'm like, okay, achieve that, on to the next. And I don't always pause and be like, no, I achieved that great thing. So sometimes you need your other people to come in and be like, hey, you are great, for you to remember that you are great.
Yeah, no, you do. You are, when I say preaching to the choir, like felt that. I saw a quote on Instagram. Look, that's the times we living in. I saw a quote on Instagram, not a book, but no, it said that hey, you actually did achieve that goal. You just raised the bar. So
Yeah.
before you even like, you know, sit in that, to your point, you already are elevating to the next thing. So it does constantly feel like we are, like my mom even said this to me. She said, Jalen, I don't know if anything will ever be like good enough for you, if
I
you're
worry
ever
about that.
satisfied. And
Yeah.
and that, you know, for her, it's just like, you know, hey, I don't know if everything, you know, if you'll ever be satisfied. She says it very lightly, but for me, that is something that's very daunting because
Mhm.
what if it's not? Like I do also believe that, but it's scary for me because if I
Same.
keep raising the bar, and I had to tell her, I was like, and this is going back. I know we talk about mental health wellness and trauma and all of those things. I had to tell her. So I mentioned that I was a twin. I told my mom, she sparked some of this. We could talk about it now. But I told her that, you know, as a kid, probably like 4th or 5th grade, I've been in honors, and I would get straight A's. Like I was the kid that cried if I got a B. Like I was that intense. Like I was intense. And my twin brother like would get a C, not because he wasn't smart, he just didn't really apply himself, but he would get a C. We go celebrate, we going to dinner, we doing all of these things, and I'm bringing home my report card with straight A's, and it's just like, oh, okay, Jalen, that's what you're supposed to do. My pop-up's famous line: we don't reward fish for swimming, or Jalen, you know that you just supposed to get good, or Jalen just smart, you know, all of these things.
Yeah.
As a kid, that's not digesting in my head. What I'm hearing is, if straight A's is the perfect you can get, what can you, and you're not being celebrated for that, what more do you have to do? So I'm constantly like going after higher, because in my mind at that age, perfect wasn't even good enough for my household. So, and I internalized that as a kid, which is probably, I honestly could have saved myself probably like half of the debt that I spent in student loans if I would have hit first. Like,
yeah. No, and it's hard because it's one of those things, because you do want to do better. And I agree with you where you're like, it's daunting. And I'll even try to tell myself like, okay, so here are my like goals. Like these are my goal markers. Like I will celebrate like certain things. I really worked hard now to like celebrate the journey and like the path, because that's so much more than the goalposts. But I'm me, so I still need a few goalposts. But like I would find myself like I'd accomplish them and then be like, okay, moving on. And it's like, wait, for a while, like this was like your thing. Like last year I was Delaware like 40 under 40. And I'm like, that's a huge thing. Thank you. But like I had been working towards it. And then by the time I got it, I was like, okay, great, next. And I'm like, wait a second here. Like you were like, this was like your, oh, I'll know that I'm in Delaware once I get this. And I got it. And I was like, okay, moving on. And I didn't really take the time to like celebrate it. And I think it's just so important, to celebrate the journey, because that's so much more than the destination, but also to really like celebrate those goalposts.
Absolutely. And again, like sticking on that, and this conversation, it might not hit everyone, but sticking back to that high functioning, when you are a high functioning person, whether that is high functioning, living with ADHD or living with, you know, anxiety, the way our brain operates, like not saying I wish people could understand, like I don't necessarily want them to have to go through what we go through, but I just wish there was some type of level of like a medium where you could understand, like it really is hard. Like while it looks easy on the outside for us doing these things, like internally it is so hard. Like I don't want to speak for you, but I know for me it's like my mind goes like 1,000 miles a minute. Like I'm doing literally 100 things at one time. Like I have a gazillion tabs open, not only in my mind, but also on my computer. Like it is hard to achieve those things, not necessarily physically or from a physical level of effort or labor, but mentally. Like it is very draining. And then there are times where, you know, we get in these spurts where we can knock out a week's worth of stuff in like 2 hours. And there are also these spurts where we can't find the motivation for 2 weeks, you know? So
reach.
You know what I mean? It's like, so, and I'm like, that really is what has been driving like my dissertation focus and research, because I've been talking to women specifically, like just like now starting to have those conversations with high achieving women, like, and sharing a little bit about my story, and to hear me too. Not that I wish that on people, but it just feels like, okay, you get it, because it's been so hard trying to articulate this or even put language to it. Like, how do I say that to someone where they're just looking at a resume or they're just looking at a bio? Like, how can they know I'm actually struggling? Like, I actually didn't get diagnosed with high functioning depression and anxiety until 3 years after my brother passed. And that was only because I was in a car accident and they said, hey, part of, your care plan, we just want to make sure you like, we'll make sure like you're, I had to do some type of brain or intellectual scan type thing. And they said that they think that, I had PTSD because I was also in a car accident, hit from behind. So I had to go to therapy. So in my therapy through that's when I had found out like, hey, for the last 3 years, like you've been moving now that you're immobile, because I was out of work for I couldn't drive for a little bit. Everything kind of just hit me at once. And that's why I had to like navigate that. But I'm like, when we go into fight, flight, fawn, like all of the things, like I don't think people understand, like your moment of stress or moment of hazard is like our standard, like day to day, so, but yeah.
Well, and I think it's hard too, like for me as someone's, because I have major depression disorder and anxiety, but it's so hard because like you said, like there are times where like I'm so on it. And like those to me are like my me. Like when I am my most me, like I can do a bunch of things. I'm getting through a list. Like it's not hard. It's easy breezy.
Yeah.
But like when my depression has kicked in and when I tell you I go from being able to do a bunch of things to being like trying so hard to focus on like one thing and like forcing myself to have like just the energy to do like that one thing. And it's so frustrating for me because it's not like I'm going through this depression and I don't know I'm going through it. I'm sitting there internally screaming to myself, get your ass up, go do this thing, get this stuff done. And while I'm sitting there going, but I can't. And I'm like, but you can. And I'm like, but I can't. And it's like this war inside of me. And like as someone who hasn't experienced it, doesn't understand it. And I get that they don't understand it because the hard thing with like mental illness is that we deal with stuff that everybody kind of deals with, but they don't understand that the other side of it is very different for us. Because like when my depression isn't kicking in and I say, oh, but I don't want to do it, a little while later is the part of me goes, but I have to, and then I do it. And it doesn't seem like it's this all-encompassing thing. But when my depression is kicked in and I go, I don't want to do it, then it's like, and I won't. And it's like, people don't understand that, like, but I do want to, like, I want to be the person I am on the days where I can do it anyways. When my depression is kicking in, I literally can't. And like, and because I had to do like official testing for it, that actually helped me a little bit because even though you have the mental illness and you have this thing, there's a part of you that feels like, but I should be stronger than that. Like I should be able to just do it. And then I have to remind myself like, no, I've actually been, like your brain actually works slower when you're going through those things. Like there's actually, I feel like we forget that your brain is an organ. So just like your other organs don't quite work well when they're sick, same thing with your brain. And so when I'm going through my depression, it really is this thing. And sometimes if I'm lucky, it's a short period. Other times like this past year, like 2025, like Jesus Louise, I had 2 major losses. I lost 2 of my siblings within a couple of months. And so like the whole year was like depression hell for me. But it's hard though, when you know who you are and what you're capable of and you want to do those things and you feel like you can't. And then so on top of getting down on yourself for not doing it, you're getting down on yourself for being weak to not do it. And it's just like, and it's one of those things, like you said, like you wish people could understand, even though you don't want them to go experience to understand.
Yeah. And in light of just keep it on with women's history, I do want to shout out a woman that was integral in that space. And that's my best friend, Jazz. I think it is important to have people around you that care about you enough to learn, care about you enough to ask questions, and care about you enough to hear through the silence. Because oftentimes we won't ask for help. We can't even put language to how we are feeling, let alone articulate to someone else what we need and how we're feeling. And when my brother passed, she was just there. Like she practically moved in. It was me and my dad living together at the time, and she was just there. Like I was moving and shaking for a while, and she was, when I eventually broke down and had my my moment, she was there. And I don't think she even understands to this date how much her presence like meant. She didn't push, she didn't assume, she just waited for me to be ready or be in a space where I knew what I needed and I could say that to her. And when I say that are willing to ask questions, fast forward to 2021, my father passed from COVID. And because I needed space when my twin brother passed, she assumed that I needed space when my father passed. I don't know why I handled the two, losses differently, but I actually needed community when my father passed because I felt so alone. And afterwards, she said to me, she said, "I'm so sorry." She said, "I thought I was helping you because I showed up the same way I did, the last time." And again, it was no beef or nothing like that, but just being able to have those raw conversations with people that care, that care about you and you care about. It's like, hey, next time I'm gonna just ask. Like that literally was her response. I'm gonna say, hey, what do you need? And I'm gonna show up however you need. But that is not, you don't find that too often. You don't find that type of community. And in light of mental health, awareness, and in light of women's history, be a sister friend to your friends. Like, even if you don't know them, like, know to be like, hey, if you ever need to talk, and again, at your own capacity, right? At your capacity. But you just never know how, like, a simple, hey, how are you? Like, I remember I would be like waiting for someone just to ask, am I okay? Like, no, I wasn't. And you're probably going to get like a handful of tears if you ask me. But I really yearned for someone just to say, like, hey, are you okay? Can you see me? I would go, like, I was working at the Boys and Girls Club in Wilmington, actually, at the time. I would cry my whole 2-hour drive, get up there, eyes puffy, cheeks red, wipe my face, go in there and tell them I had a cold. And they believed me. And, it's like all of these things, I just wanted someone to see me. Like, that's it. I just wanted you to see me, but yeah.
No, and it's so hard. Also, I'm sorry for the loss of your dad. The grief is so hard, and the worst part about it is that it hits you in very unexpected ways. The type of grief, that's a whole nother conversations. But being there for your friends is definitely important, and thinking about your mental health through it is important. I can't thank you enough for coming to join me for this conversation. I know we've been yapping away for a while, but it's always good to get to chat, and I'm sure we could talk about a million other things because there's just so much around the subject of mental health and being a woman. But I think this was a great conversation for International Women's Day. So thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate you having me.
Absolutely. And if people want to get a hold of you, and also, do you have anything? I know you said you had a project maybe coming up. Do you have any big projects or any initiatives? How can people get a hold of you?
Yes. So follow us on Instagram, OutLoud_DE. My Instagram is __ Jalen Powell, spelled in my name spelled in the tag. But on April the 17th through the 19th, in honor of women's history and all things women that we've been talking about, we're actually hosting our first women's wellness retreat in Rehoboth, Delaware, from that Friday, April 17th to Sunday, April 19th. Is there a way I can share information on can I send it to you and you send out?
Yeah, we'll send it. We'll add it.
Okay, awesome. But I'll make sure you guys get information. It is going to be amazing. We have an amazing panel. We'll have self-care lounge. We'll have a indoor pool movie night, fireside chat by the fire pit, just all things wellness and community. So hope to see some of the ladies out there.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. And thank you everybody who joined us this evening. It's always great getting the chat. Great podcast. Thanks for sharing. Absolutely. Thank you for joining us. And we'll be back again next week. But thank you everybody and have a wonderful Sunday evening. Bye.
Thank you. See you.